I had a job to do on Christmas Eve. I mean, on New Year's Eve. And I thought it was okay to go and cash a check in Houston and bring back my husband, help him get the job done, and then take it back this morning. And I can tell you that I feel like that I've broken through something that wasn't supposed to be broken through. Now, it's been a while since I read the Four Dire Judgments, but if I remember right, if you were meant to stay in the city, then whatever destruction was upon you, to assigned to you, you could still reach you, whether you ran or not. And I don't know what I did. I got out of there, right? Got out of the city. But to enter the city is so bad. And I'm telling you that somewhere on my channel, like 4 or 5 years ago, the Four Dire Judgments is there. But that was with the Berean Study Bible. And this heaviness is on me. I don't know how I got out. I got a word from Yahweh yesterday. It said, stay on your feet. Which I thought that meant keep moving. Not just keep moving physically, but to keep your brain moving. Ears are ringing. And then last night, I felt like restless leg, right? And I just figured any enemy that's attacking me, I'm just going to go into the spirit and pray it off. And so I started praying in tongues. Hello, everyone. Let's see. I started praying in tongues. And as soon as I opened my mouth, a spirit, an angel or messenger of light gave me utterance. The Ruach HaKodesh gave me utterance more strongly than I have received in what does it say? Years? At least a year or two. And I heard you wouldn't believe the pressure right now. Y'all are welcome to pray for me. We petition a court higher. We petition a higher court. Something to that effect came through. It was so strong. In a language that I had not spoken in many years. There's no joke. Happy New Year to you. Okay, so the Four Dire Judgments. If you break out of the city and you were not meant to, if you were meant for the judgment. And that's what I feel like. And I'm feeling it better now. I'm feeling better now because of telling you the tongues and interpretation that came to me was that we can petition a court higher than the court that would say that we cannot leave the city of destruction. You can run. You can run. I finally pulled over and I got a pack of Mentos because when you're under heavy demonic attack or radiation attack, trying to break out of the grid of 5 or 6G, I have found that it helps just to pop a Mento, chew it, suck it, whatever, to be able to get through the wall of the dome. Okay, so what am I talking about? So if you go to Ezekiel, Yekezel in Hebrew, Ezekiel chapter 14. I'm just going to read it to you. And some of the elders of Israel came to me and sat before me, and the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, these men have set up their idols in their hearts, and have put the stumbling block of the crookedness before their face. Should I let them inquire of me at all? Therefore speaking to them, therefore speak to them, and you shall say to them, Thus says the Master Yahuwah, every one of the house of Israel who sets up his idol in his heart and puts the stumbling block of his crookedness before his face, and shall come to the prophet, I, Yahuwah, shall answer him who comes according to his many idols, in order to lay hold of the house of Israel by their heart, for that they have become estranged from me by their idols, all of them. Now, what do I think I did wrong? I think that I went into the city when God told me not to. And what was the reasoning? Words were for income, for money. It was not a set apart day. Today was not a set apart day. But I went for the goal of cashing a check. And last night for the goal of doing a job. Okay, continuing. Verse 6. Therefore, say to the house of Israel, Thus said the Master Yahuwah, repent and turn back from your idols. Mammon is an idol. Money is an idol. And turn back your faces from all your abominations. For anyone of the house of Israel or of the stranger who sojourn in Israel, who separate himself from me and set his idols of his heart and puts the stumbling block of his crookedness before his face, and shall come to a prophet to inquire of him concerning me, I, Yahuwah, shall answer him myself. I shall set my face against that man, and make him a sign and a proverb, and I shall cut him off from the midst of my people, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And if a prophet is deceived, and shall speak a word, I, Yahuwah, have deceived that prophet. Now, when a prophet will answer a corrupt people that have put idols in front of Yahuwah and still, hold on to their idolatry at the same time as as coming before a prophet and asking for a word. If that prophet answers, it's because Yahuwah has deceived that prophet, right? That's what it says. That he will give him a false prophecy. And shall stretch out my hand against him and destroy him from the midst of my people, Israel. So he's going to destroy not only the man who came to get a word from a prophet, who has not put down his idols, but he's also going to put away that prophet who he deceived to give a word to someone. You're asking me what I did? What I did is I went into the city before the great earthquake, which God has told me not to get income.
Eat the last slice.
You're welcome. He told me not to go until, and he didn't say until what, but I knew it was until the great earthquake. Do I think I'm cursed by God? No, I think that demons chased me all the way for the last 80 miles and oppressed me and tried to keep me from staying alive to get out of there. Tried to force me to have a wreck. And walking was easier than driving. So I would stop and I would walk for like an hour and then get back in the truck to drive again. And then I would only make it for about 5 miles. And then I would have to pull over again and stop and walk to get through this same area that I used to have such a problem getting through in 2019 and 2020. It's an area, and even 2021. It's an area there between 1960 and Cleveland. And of course, being New Year's Day, there could have been blood sacrifices done in this area that would cause it hard for me to pass through an area where demons have gotten stronger from the worship of satanic worship and the satanic rituals of abuse that make them strong, that they feed off of. The alcohol consumption. Verse 9. So I'm reading this so that you can understand what I know about the 4 dire judgments and the fact that it is very real. Okay? Verse 9. And if the prophet is deceived and he speaks a word, I, Yahuwah, have deceived that prophet and stretched out my hand against him and destroyed him from the midst of my people Israel. And they shall bear their crookedness. The crookedness of the prophet is the same as the crookedness of the inquirer. So he that asks of the prophet and the prophet himself are sinning, are in the great sin of idolatry. So in other words, it's like if you see someone who hasn't put away their idolatry at this time, do not pray for him, but coach him to repent first. Do not ask of him of God. First, ask him to sincerely turn back from his wickedness and crookedness. And then you can ask God to relieve him and give him a word. Okay, verse 11. So that the house of Israel no longer strays from me, nor be made unclean any more with all this all their transgressions, and they shall be my people, and I be their Elohim, declares the Master Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah, and the word of Yahuwah came again to me, saying, verse 13, Son of man, when a land sins against me to commit a trespass, and I shall stretch out my hand against it and cut off its supply of bread, and send scarcity of food on it, and cut off man and beast from it, even though these three men, Noah, which is Noah, Daniel, and Ayub, which is Job. So both Noah, Daniel, and Job were in it. They would deliver only themselves by their righteousness, says the Master Yahuwah. If I cause an evil beast to pass through, and pardon me, if I cause an evil beast to pass through the land, and it shall bereave it, and it shall be a wasteland, so that no man passes through because of the beasts. Verse 16. Even though these three men were in it, these three holy men mentioned, Noah, Daniel, and Job, as I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, they would deliver neither son nor daughter. They alone would be delivered, but the land be a wasteland. Or if I bring a sword on the land, and I shall say, Sword, go through the land, and I shall cut off man and beast from it, even though these three men were in its midst. As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, they would deliver neither son nor daughter, for they alone would be delivered. Or if I sent a plague into the land, and I shall pour out my wrath on it in blood, to cut off from it man and beast, even though Noah, Daniel, and Ayub, which is Job, were in it. As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, they would deliver neither son nor daughter. They would deliver their own lives by their righteousness. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, how much more it shall be when I send my 4 evil judgments on Jerusalem, the sword, and scarcity, and evil beasts, and pestilence, to cut off man and beast from it. And then there's in parentheses, this refers to the 4 horsemen of Revelation chapter 6. So the 4 dire judgments, everybody says that they're separate, but I don't read them as separate. The sword, scarcity of food, evil beasts, and plagues. Verse 22. But see, there shall be left in it a remnant, who are brought out, both sons and daughters. See, they are coming out to you, and you shall see their ways and their deeds, and shall be comforted concerning the evil which I have brought upon Jerusalem, all that I have brought upon it. And they shall comfort you, and you shall see their ways and their deeds, and you shall know that it was not for nothing that I have done whatever I did in it. He didn't destroy them for nothing. Okay? Declares the Master Yahuwah. Okay, then begins the chapter 15. You can see I really took a hit. I really took a hit to enter an area that was that caused has worshipped so much um their idols last night, and that I feel like you would think I would feel relieved, right? Gloria So, in other words, was when you go into a place like that, God's saying that only a righteous man can come out, like Daniel, who prayed 3 times a day, that he would not be able to rescue his wife, his husband, his daughter, his son, his granddaughter, his grandson, but he alone would be able to escape. Okay, chapter 15. Then the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, how is the grapevine? Okay, that's the alcohol that was consumed yesterday, right? How is the grapevine better than any bush? The branch that has been among the trees of the forest. Is wood taken from it to be made into any work? Do they take a peg from it to hang any vessel on it? See, into the fire it shall be given for fuel. Both ends of it the fire shall burn, and its middle shall be scorched. It is fit for Is it fit for any work? Um after you take wood and put it in a fireplace and burn it, is it good for anything afterwards? No, it's good for nothing, right? So this is talking about idolatry. Okay, verse 5. See, when I was intact, it pardon me. See, when it was intact, it was not made for work. How much less then when the fire had burned it and it is scorched, shall it still be used for work? Therefore, thus saith the Master Yahuwah, as the grape vine among the trees of the forest, which I have given to the fire for fuel, so I shall give up the inheritance of Jerusalem, and I shall set up my face against them, and they shall go out from one fire, but another fire consumes them. So, in other words, if you run from the city, that you'll be consumed by a fire still, if you were meant for that judgment. Okay? Reading on. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah when I set my face against them, and I shall make the land a wasteland, because they committed trespass, declares the Master Yahuwah. Chapter 16. Again, the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, make known to Jerusalem her inhabitants, and say, Thus says the Master Yahuwah to Jerusalem, your origin and your birth are from the land of Curran, like Canaan, but in this scripture it has it spelled Kenan. Your father was an Amorite and your mother a Kittite. Okay, you see Jerusalem, when he chose Abraham, his father was an Amorite and his mother was a Kittite. There was nothing special about Abraham when he chose him, except that he obeyed the voice of Yahuwah, the voice of God. Um, Verse 4. As for your birth, on the Yom, or the day you were born, your navel cord was not cut, nor were you washed in water for cleansing, and you were not rubbed with salt at all, nor wrapped in cloth at all. So this is talking about the bride. When he chose that people, that bride, for himself to be his people, okay, that they were unloved even by their parents, even by their own people, right? Verse 5. No eye felt sorry for you to do any of these for you, to have compassion on you, but you were thrown out into the open field to the loathing of your life on the Yom you were born. Then I passed by you and saw you trampled down in your own blood, and I said to you, in your blood, live. Okay, so it's talking about him choosing this Abraham and his seed as a people, as the bride of Christ, and he chose him when neither his mother, the Kittite, or his father, Amorite, would even do anything, not even cut his umbilical cord, or her being a bride, umbilical cord, that she just lay there in her own blood. And he came by and he told this Abraham and his seed to live. Okay? And I said to you, in your blood, live. See, it says it twice. Verse 7. I have let you grow like a plant in the field, and you have grown and are great, and you come to the finest um, ornaments. You come in the finest ornaments. Okay. Breasts were formed on, breasts were formed, and your hair grew, and you were naked and bare. So he's speaking of her as a woman, the bride of Christ, okay, which is the church, right? Verse, which is also Israel, okay, okay, but because the church can't say that her mother was a Kittite and her father was an Amorite, but Abraham could. Okay, verse 8. Again, I passed by you and looked upon you and saw that your time was the time of love, and I spread my skirts over you and covered your nakedness, and I swore an oath to you and entered into covenant with you, and you are mine, declares the Master Yahuwah. So he chose Abraham as his bride, the seed of Abraham as his bride. Okay, because it says Jerusalem. And Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem, was a wicked city when David took it over. So he's not talking about that. And it definitely was not that. It was, he chose a people. He chose a people. He chose Israel. Okay, verse 9. And I washed you in water. That's baptism. That's immersion. Okay? And I washed off your blood, and I anointed you with oil. Okay? And that's the Holy Spirit, the Ruach, the set apart spirit. Verse 10. And I dressed you in embroidered work, and I gave you sandals of leather, and I wrapped you in fine linen and covered you with silk. Okay, that makes me think of, I have a group that's watching me right now. Um um uh is it cuz it's um Uzbekistan, Uzbekistan. Anyway, your production of linen and cotton, to be precise, and silk is high, and you're landlocked, double landlocked all the way around. And you only have a train and trucks to take out your goods that you produce. And the and so this reminds me of you, okay? Um, um, this European country just below Russia um, and Ukraine, but services Russia and Ukraine with its produce. Okay, I thank you for watching. You're a large percentage of your 10% of my watch. Um, your 10% of my audience. Verse 11. And I adorned you with ornaments, and I put bracelets on your wrists and chains on your neck, and I put a ring on your nose and earrings in your ears and a crown of adorning on your head. Thus you were adorned with gold and silver, and your dress was of fine linen and silk and embroidered cloth. You ate fine flour and honey and oil, and you were exceedingly pretty, and became fit for royalty. You became fit to be his bride. You understand? Verse 14. And your name went out among the Goyim because of your loveliness, for it was perfect by my splendor which I had put on you, declares the Master Yahuwah. See, it's the glory of God. It is the glory of God that makes a people splendid enough to be the bride. Okay? Verse 15. That's coming again. It's coming. He's already prophesied it in the prayer call. I have not been able to release it because it was just Wednesday and this is just Thursday. But it's coming. I will get it written out and we will get that delivered very soon. I may have to do it raw like I'm doing this, but we'll get it. Okay? Verse 15. You trusted in your own loveliness and whored because of your name, and poured out your whorings on everyone passing by who would have it. And you took some of your garments and made multicolored high places for yourself and whored on them. In other words, had had you worshipped other things instead of waiting on Yahuwah the Father, right? Um, and then it has a hyphen, which should not have come about, nor shall it be. So this is what angers him, idolatry. Verse 17, and you took your splendid ornaments off. Pardon me. You took your splendid ornaments of gold and of my gold and my silver that I gave you, and you made for yourselves images of male and whoring with them. So they made images. They weren't actual men. They just made images of a male. and they worshipped, it's stating like they had sexual intercourse with these images. When you know what they did, they at Christmas you lay your Christmas gifts at the bottom of a tree that you have laced with gold and silver. So this is idolatry, and he's talking in these terms about it. Okay, so God gave us the gold and silver that adorned us, and we took it off of ourselves. In this parable in verse 17, and we put it on a a form, and it says a male, and whored with it, made an image of a male and whored with it. So interesting enough, what we did is we wrapped it around a tree, and other people they take and pound it out with hammers on a cedar that has been formed into a person, or into or even a girl, a female sometimes, right? Verse 18, and you took your embroidered garments and covered them. You took the garments, the special garments. Thank you for watching from Serbia. Yes, thank you. You took your royal garments that God had given you, and you took them off and you gave them to the idol that you had set up to worship, that you had already taken your bracelets of gold and rings and necklaces and gave it to the idol, and then you gave your clothing, your linen and your silk to the idol, and you set my oil and my incense before them. So even the oil that God poured over your head to anoint you, and oh, to make you holy and set apart for him, that you would give your oil to these, you would give your gifts to these things, right? And my increase before them. Okay, your tithe. You would take the tithe and give it to them. Oh, and my food which I gave you, of fine flour and oil and honey, which I fed you, you set it before them. So you take the food that God has given you to sustain you, and you end up giving it to idols, that to set meat and and delicacies before idols, right? Before you set it before them as sweet incense, and so it was declared the master. So it was, declares the master Yahuwah. And you took your sons and your daughters, from whom you bore to me, and these you slaughtered as food for them. You killed your own children. Where were as human sacrifice, right? Were were your whorings a small matter? In other words, he's saying, is your sin a small matter? Verse 21. Of course, as I started the live, I explained to you that it pained me to even travel through this area where there's great sin of human sacrifice, of oh, on the new year. Last night, bringing in the new year, they wanted to bring in the new year with such terrible acts of the children. In verse 21, that you have slain my children and gave them up to them by causing them to pass through the fire. This is the area of 1960 all the way to Cleveland, that area in between. And in all your abomination and whoring, you did not remember the yomim of your youth, when you were naked and bare, trampled down in your blood. He's reminding you how he found you, right? Verse 23. Then I came to you, then it came to be after all your evil, woe, woe to you, declares the Master Yahuwah, that you shall build an arched place, like, like a McDonald's or something, but the arch, like a entryway, right? Doors that are arched, right? And place for yourself, and make a high place in every street for yourself. You built your high places at the head of every way, and made your loveliness to be loathed. And you parted your feet to everyone who passed by, and increased your whorings. And you whored with the sons of Mitzrayim. That's Egypt, right? But that's any sinful thing, people, right? Um, and your neighbors, great of flesh, and you increased your whorings to provoke me. And see, I have stretched out my hand against you, and withdrew your portion, and gave you up to the desires of those who hate you, and the daughters of the Philistines, the Philshittim, who are ashamed of your wicked way. Huh, do you hear that? Even so, the daughters of Philistine, which is an area, they're not really daughters of Philistine, but the area is Gaza, and their
Philistine territory.
Territory, yes, and that area is Gaza, the Gaza Strip, and they're sick of your wickedness, right? Which, it's talking about all of Israel. It's not talking about Jerusalem itself. It's talking about all the 10 tribes that are in America, because I'm telling you, the 10 tribes in America is the ones that are fixing to be judged. They're the ones in the city whoring. Verse 28. And you're whoring with the sons of Ashshur, Ashshur, without being satisfied, and you're whoring with them, and still were not satisfied, and you increased your whorings as far as the land of traders, Chaldea, and even then you would not be satisfied, and you would not satisfied. You were not satisfied. So what we do know is that Ukraine, that America has has traded with Ukraine, um, back with Biden, when Biden was in administration, and that even then it was not satisfied, even that far distance away. Verse 30. How weak is your heart, declares the Master Yahuwah. Seeing, no, now Ukrainians are not wicked. I'm telling you that they brought their shameful idolatry of whoring all the way over to Ukraine. Okay, um, where I'll just say it like I've seen another person say it, where Zelensky comes to meet with Trump, and there's white powder falling out of his nose. He's so high before he came to meet with him that it's falling out of his nose during the meeting. seeing you do all this, the deeds of a shameless whore. You built your arched places at the head of every way, and built your high places in every street. Yet you were unlike a whore. Yet you were unlike a whore. You scorned payment. You wouldn't even take payment for the crap you did. You just did it for free. That's what it says. Verse 32. The Asha, the wife, the woman, who breaks wedlock, who takes strangers inside instead of her husband. 33. To all her harlots they give gifts, but you gave gifts to all your lovers, and bribed them to come to you from all around in your harlotry. In other words, usually you get paid for your services, and instead you're paying anyone who will lie with you and sin with you, do a witchcraft with you, give the children up as as terrible things in order to make a contract with Satan. It is terrible. It's a terrible thing. What happens on 1960, the Highway 1960. And I've heard that it is one of the worst trade slaves area of all. From some people, some a ministry of when they were teenagers, they started saving girls from the slave trade, the sex trade, right there in the outskirts of Houston. And I still drive when I drive through there as fast as I can to get out. I still feel like the devil wants to grab me and keep me from traveling through that area. That it wants to kill me. It wants to silence me. Probably because I pray while I pass through there. Verse 34. Thus you are different from other women in your harlotry, because no one whores after you, and in your giving a gift, and in you giving a gift, while a gift was not given to you. Thus you are different. Therefore, harlot, hear the word of Yahuwah. Thus says the Master Yahuwah, because your copper was poured out. Copper, yeah. Because your copper was poured out, and your nakedness uncovered in the harlotry with your lovers, and with the idols of your abomination, and because of the blood of your children which you gave to them. Therefore, see, I am gathering all your lovers with whom you took pleasure, all those you loved with all those you hated, and I shall gather them from all around against you, and shall uncover your nakedness to them, and they shall see all your nakedness, and I shall judge you with judgments of adultery and shedders of blood, and I shall bring on you the blood of wrath and jealousy, and I shall give you into their hand, and they shall throw your arched places down, and they shall break down your high places, and they shall strip you of your garments, and they shall take your splendid ornaments and leave you naked and bare, and they shall bring up an assembled an assembly against you, and they shall stone you with stones, and thrust you through with their swords, and burn your houses with fire, and execute judgment on you before the eyes of many women. And I shall make you stop whoring and no longer give gifts. So I shall bring my wrath to rest upon you, and my jealousy will turn away from you, and I shall be calm and no longer be vexed, because you did not remember the Yomim of your youth, but troubled me with all this. So see, I shall also bring your way on your own head, declares the Master Yahuwah, and I shall not do this through, I shall not do this thought for you. And I shall not do this thought for you for all your abominations. See, verse 44, see, all who use proverbs shall use this proverb against you, like mother, like daughter. You are your mother's daughter, who despised her husband and her children, and you are the sister of your sister, who despised their husbands and their children. Your mother was a Kittite, and your father an Amorite. And so he's rejecting. Of course, it sounds like he's rejecting Jerusalem, but he's rejecting those who he has called beloved, who have turned their away. It's not the whole house. It's the ones that he scattered, the 10 tribes that were scattered for their rebellion against Yahweh. And obviously I feel like I have escaped the 4 dire judgments by leaving the city today. And I'm reading this, and I've done this before, not naming 1960 and north of it to almost all the way to Cleveland. I don't know exactly where the break off is there, but there is palm readers even there on 105. There are I don't think this includes Plum Grove. I think that Palm Grove is not included, but because I've been there and I've actually been able to witness in Plum Grove to 3 different people. There is righteousness in Plum Grove, but there is wickedness there also. So there's little areas. But I'm reading this to tell you how frustrated I am at the demons from that place that are trying to kill me on the road all the way here. And I want you to know, maybe it's because I have read these dire judgments out before, about 4 or 5 years ago, but I never named a location. And this time I'm naming the location. I am tired of every time I drive by this area being attacked. I'm sick of it. Verse 46. And your elder sister is Shamaron, Shomeron. She and her daughters, who is dwelling in the north of you,
What is this?
and your, excuse me,
What type of chocolate is this?
I have no earthly idea.
Chocolate is chocolate.
Dwelling of the north of you, and your sis, and your younger sister, who dwells to the south of you, is Sodom and her daughter and her daughters. So, if you read this scripture correctly, it's talking about even the north and the south of this area.
Some peanut chocolate.
I'm busy, Daniel. Verse 47. And have you not walked into their ways and did according to their abomination? Okay, so this is talking about those who have come to whore with this whore of Babylon in this area that I've mentioned. Saying that she is going to, the areas around are guilty also, because haven't they come and did according to their abominations? But in all your ways you soon became more corrupt than they. I don't know about that. I don't know that. I'm just telling you what I know. What if that when I drive by this area and to attacked by demons so badly that if I don't have someone to pray with me as we pass through that area, I just about die. And I pull over and I walk through the grocery stores, and there's still such a heaviness in that area. North Park is so heavy. And I know there's righteous people among them. I know some of their names. I know there's righteous among them that live there. And yet, there's such a heaviness. Verse 48. As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, neither your sister Sodom nor your daughter have done as you and your daughters have done. So now he's comparing it to Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 49. See, this was the crookedness of your sister Sodom. She and her daughter had pride, sufficiency of bread. In other words, they feel like they've put away enough bread that they can withstand the day of judgment, right? And unconcerned ease. They think that they're going to wait out the judgments of God and live, right? In like the 3 days of darkness, they're just going to hide up in their house and live right through it, just like the righteous, because they've prepared, right? And she did not help the poor and the needy. In verse 50, and they were haughty and did abomination before me, and I took them away when I saw it. And Shomeron, Shomeron, did not commit half of your sins, but you have increased your abominations more than they. And by all the abominations which you have done, you make your sister seem righteous. You also who pleaded, so you make Sodom and Gomorrah seem righteous, is what God's saying. You also who pleaded means to gather up. Pleaded for, no, it says pleaded for your sisters. That means to cry out and pray, like in wailing for them. This is verse 52. You also who pleaded for your sisters, bear your own shame, because the sins which you committed were more abominable than theirs. They are more righteous than you. So be ashamed too, and bear your own shame, because you have made your sisters seem righteous. And I shall turn back their captivity, the captivity of Sodom and her daughters, and the captivity of Shamaran, which I think that's Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, but correctly spoken is Shamaran, Shomeron, and her daughters, and the captivity of your captives with them. Verse 54. These are people that were sleeping with angels. And he's saying that the sin that they're doing now is greater than that, by taking the children of the bride, of Christ, of Messiah, kidnapping them. And that's all I'll say. Verse 54. So that they bear your shame, and shall blush for all that you did when you confronted them. And your sister Sodom and her daughters return to their former state. And Shamaron, and Gomorrah, right? In America, we call it Gomorrah. And her daughters return to their former state, and you and your daughters return to your former state. Verse 56. Was not your sister Sodom a byword to your mouth in the yomam of your pride? Yeah, you call it sodomy, right? You called it sodomy. That's your byword, right? Verse 57. Before your evil was exposed, as the time of the reproach of the daughters of Aram, Aram, and all who were around her, and the daughters of the Philistine, it's the Philistines, right? Who are despising you wherever. Okay, this by I'm not going to go into that. You can listen to the recording to get to the place where I already spoke of that before. By here, I will tell you how it's spelled in the true scriptures here. It's Philisttim. Verse 58. You shall bear your wickedness and your abominations, declared Yahuwah. For thus says the Master Yahuwah, I shall deal with you as you have done, in that you have despised the oath of your breaking the covenant. But I shall remember my covenant with you in the yomam of your youth. And I shall establish an everlasting covenant with you. Whoa! Did you hear that? In other words, he's going to burn the sin out of you, and he's going to still keep his covenant with you. Because his covenant with you, O house of Israel, 10 tribes that were scattered abroad, he's going to keep it. He's going to expose you, burn the sin out of you, and still take you as his Ashah, his bride. Verse 61. And you shall remember your ways and be ashamed when you receive your older and your younger sisters, and I shall give them to you for daughters, though not by your own covenant, and I myself shall establish my covenant with you, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. So he's going to establish his covenant with Sodom and Gomorrah again. That's how I read it. Verse 63. So that you remember, and you shall be ashamed, and never open your mouth again. Pardon me. Never open your mouth anymore because of your shame when I pardon you for all you have done, declares the Master Yahuwah. And so it's like he's going to deliver and pardon all of this area that I'm talking about. That I just read off all this terrible stuff, and I'm acquainting it with the area of 1960 all the way up to just below Cleveland, and that God is going to cleanse you, expose you and cleanse you, and take him as your, because he's already given you an oath, an everlasting oath with you. He's going to take you anyway, and you are going to be ashamed, very ashamed, when I pardon you for all you have done, declares the Master Yahuwah. This happened on October the 10th. I read this section and I understood it, and I said, don't burn them, don't burn her, because I knew that my God was going to save my mother and take care into his everlasting covenant, even though she had done things that he didn't like, but that he was going to purge her, and then he was going to take her into heaven as his bride. That she will suffer here. She suffered here, but she was not going to suffer eternity. And that's what God's saying here, that the 10 tribes of Israel that were scattered abroad, they suffer here, but they will not go into the lake of fire. And I've been looking for this section for years. So it's Ezekiel chapter 16, verses 60 through 63. Those 3 verses. And God allowed me to find it one time, and then I couldn't find it again now for 15 years. I think it's been about 15 years. Verse 17. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, put forth a riddle, and say a parable to the house of Israel. And you shall say, Thus says the Master Yahuwah, the great eagle with large wings on long pinions, covered with feathers of various colors, came to Lebanon and took the top of the cedar. He plucked off the topmost of its young twigs and brought it to a land of traders. In a city of merchants he placed it. So that's what he did with the 10 tribes, right? And he told, verse 5, he also took some of the seed of the land and planted it in a field for seed, He took it by many miams, set it like a willow tree, so it grew and became a, a low spreading vine. Its branches turned toward him, and its roots were under it, and it became a vine and brought forth branches and sent out shoots. And there was another great eagle with large wings and many feathers. And see, this vine bent its roots toward him and stretched its branches toward him to water it away from the beds where it was planted. It was planted in a good field by many mayim, to bring forth branches and to bear fruit, and to vine be a splendid vine. Verse 9. Say is right, commanding you to speak this. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, it is good to thrive. Is he not going to is he not going to pull up its roots and cut off its fruit and let it wither? All of its sprouting leaves withered, without great power or many people to pluck it up by its roots. See, it is planted, it is going to thrive. Would it not utterly wither when the east wind touches it? Wither in the beds where it grows? And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, please say to the rebellious house, do you know what these mean? Do you know what these mean? Verse 12. Please say to the rebellious house, do you know what these mean? Say, see, the sovereign of Babel went to Jerusalem and took its sovereign and heads, in other words, its leaders, right? Its presidents, and brought them with him to Babylon. And he took one of the royal seed and made a covenant with him and put him under oath. And he took away the mighty of the land, so that the rain would be brought low and not lift itself up, but guard his covenant. So in other words, humbly guard the word of Yahuwah, right? The 10 commands, right? The 10 commandments. And it shall stand, verse 15. But he rebelled against him by sending his messenger to Egypt, Mitzrayim, to give him horses and many people. Shall he thrive? It's a question mark. Shall he escape who is doing these? And shall he break a covenant and still escape? As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, in the place where the sovereign dwells, who set him up to reign, whose oath he despised, and whose covenant he broke with him in the midst of Babel, he shall die. Verse 17. And Farah, which is Pharaoh, okay, Farah. There's a section of highway that's donated to or supported by or whatever of Farah. So this pagan name, I wouldn't call it. Yeah, it's the name of the leader of Egypt back in the days when the children of God were there as slaves. So verse 17. And Pharaoh, or Pharaoh, with his great army and great company, is not going to help him in battle when they heap up a siege ramp and build a wall to cut off many beings. And he despised the oath by breaking the covenant. And see, he was given his hand, and he has done all this. He is not going to escape. Verse 19. Therefore, thus says the Master Yahuwah, as I live, he has despised, and my covenant which he has broken, shall I not put it on his own head? Verse 20. And I shall spread my net over him, and he shall be taken in my snare, and I shall bring him to Babel, and enter into judgment with him there for the trespass which he committed against me. So it sounds like that the tribes that were committing sins against and whorings against against Yahuwah, were brought to Americas to be judged. That's what it sounds like, because Americas has all the symbolism of Babel, the Babylonian government, both in Washington, D.C., and in Dallas and in Houston, and underground networks all under and roads connecting it all. And entered into judgment with him there for the trespasses which he committed against me. Verse 21. And all his fugitives with all his bands fall by the sword, and those who are left be scattered to every wind. And you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have spoken. Thus said the Master Yahuwah, and I shall take of the top of the highest cedar, I shall take of the top of the highest cedar and sell it. I can't even say it right. And I shall take the top of the highest cedar and set it out. And I myself shall pluck off a tender one from the topmost of its young twigs, and plant it on a high and lofty mountain, on the mountain height of Israel, right? I plant it, and it shall bring forth branches, and bring fruit, and bear fruit, and become a big cedar. So that's speaking of Jerusalem and what Jerusalem is now. And under it shall dwell birds of every sort. But this is the New Jerusalem. This is not the regular one. Because everybody's seen this tree in visions. Okay? And under it shall dwell birds of every sort, in the shadow of its branches they shall dwell, and all the trees of the field shall know that I, Yahuwah, have brought down the high tree, and exalted the low tree, and dried up the green tree, and made the dry tree flourish. I, Yahuwah, have spoken, and will do it. Okay, so this is like he's going to take the remnant out of the house of he's gonna take a remnant, and he's gonna take them to heavenly New Jerusalem. Okay. It's hard to decide where to quit reading here. But it's such a it's like reading a novel, a horror novel, or a wretched love novel, because it is. It's about his love for us. Verse 18, chapter 18. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, what do you mean when you use this proverb concerning the land of Israel, saying, the fathers have eaten sour grapes, and the children's teeth are blunted? Verse 3. As I live, declares the Master Yahuwah, you shall no longer use this proverb in Israel. Verse 4. See, all things are mine. The being of the Father, means the body of the Father, right? The being of the Father, as well as the being of the Son, is mine. Okay, now he said, this sounds like he's talking about himself and his son Messiah. The being that is sinning shall die. So your flesh shall die. You understand? Your flesh shall die. Verse 5. But if a man is righteous and shall do righteous ruling and righteousness, if he has not eaten on the mountains, nor lifted up his eyes to the idols of the house of Israel, nor defiled his neighbor's Ashah, nor comes near an Ashah during her uncleanliness, if he does not oppress anyone, does return to the debtors his pledge, and does not commit robbery, does give his bread to the hungry, and covers the naked with a garment, if he does not lend on interest or take increase, turns back his hand from unrighteousness, executes right ruling in truth between men and men. In other words, between the quarreling men, I guess. If he walks in my laws, and he has guarded my right rulings in truth, he is righteous, and he shall certainly live, says the Master Yahuwah. But if he has brought forth a son who is a robber or a shedder of blood, who does any of these, whatever he himself did, whatever he himself did not do any of these, that also he has eaten on the mountains on or defiled his neighbor's Ashah. If he has oppressed the poor and needy, has committed robbery, he does not return a pledge, has lifted his eyes to the idols, or did abomination, if he has lent or interest or taken increase, shall he live? He shall not live. If he has done any of these abominations, he shall certainly die. His blood is upon him. But see, if he has brought forth a son who sees all the sin which his father has done, but he fears and does not do likewise, has not eaten of the on the mountains, and has not lifted up his eyes to idols of the house of Israel, and has not defiled his neighbor's Ashah, and has not oppressed anyone, nor withheld a pledge, nor committed robbery, has given his bread to the hungry, and covered his nakedness with a garment, turns back his hand from wronging the poor, and he has not taken interest or increase, has executed my right ruling, and walked in my laws. He shall not die for the crookedness of his father. He shall certainly live. His father, because he has used oppression, robbed his brother, and did what is not good among the people. See, he shall die for his crookedness. And you said, why should the son not bear the crookedness of the father? But the son has done right rulings and righteousness. He has guarded all my laws, and has done and he does them. He shall certainly live. The being who sins shall die. The son shall not bear the crookedness of the father, nor the father bear the crookedness of the son. And the righteousness of the righteous is upon himself, and the wrongness of the wrong is upon himself. But the wrong, if it turns from all his sins. Now, this is about someone who is sinning, but the wrong, the person who is doing wrong, if he turns from all his sins which he has done. This is verse 22. If he turns from all the sin which he has done, and he shall guard all my laws, and shall do right rulings and righteousness, he shall certainly live. He shall not die. So in other words, you have to repent with your mouth and then with your body. You have to start doing the righteousness. You have to start paying those that you have sworn an oath to. And maybe that's why I feel I shouldn't say that. I stopped myself. I am words need to be very careful. You have to be very careful with. To say, I am rich and I'm well. I've need and for Yahuwah has supplied all my needs. Because whatever you speak, that shall it be. So I just stopped myself from saying something. But I know that there may still be flesh hooks in me. Not because I've done these terrible things that were mentioned in this chapter, but that what it says right here about doing all these things, living all this righteousness, right? Then you'll certainly live. Maybe that's why I feel the drag every time I come through that area. Maybe that's why I feel the demons chasing me and pulling on me. Maybe there's a legal right still somewhere in me that I need to deal with. I know that the blood of Yeshua has covered me. I know that. But I need to make lots of money and pay off all my debts. For I am in debt. There's another word. I renounce saying that. I am not in debt. I am not in debt. for Yahusha has paid my ransom. He has paid my ransom. And that's what you need to pray. That God, through Yeshua, the Christ, the Messiah, has paid your ransom. Thank you, Messiah, for paying what I could not repay. For paying off all of my oaths, all of my loans, in the mighty name of Yeshua, Messiah. That's the grace of the Father, the Master, Yahuwah, to give his only begotten Son, so that to die on a cross, to pay off all of your debts that you could not pay. Verse 23. Have I any pleasure in the death of the wrong? Declares the Master Yahuwah. Is it not that he should turn from his ways and live? But when a righteous one turns away from his righteousness and does unrighteousness according to all the abominations that the wrong one has done, shall he live? All his righteousness which he has done shall not be remembered, for his trespass which he has committed, and for his sin which he has committed, for them he shall die. And you say, the way of Yahuwah is not right. Hear now, O house of Israel, is my way not right? Is it not your ways that are not right? When a righteous one turns away from his righteousness and does unrighteousness, and he dies in it, it is because of his unrighteousness which he has done that he dies. And when the wrong turns away from the wrong which he has done, and he does right ruling and righteousness, he keeps himself alive, because he sees and turns away from all the transgression which he has done. He shall certainly live, he shall not die. And the house of Israel shall say, the way of Yahuwah is not right. Are my ways not right, O house of Israel? Is it not your ways that are not right? Therefore I judge you, O house of Israel, every one according to his ways, declares the Master Yahuwah. Repent and turn back from your transgressions, and let not crookedness be a stumbling block to you. Cast away from you all the trespasses by which you have transgressed, and make for yourself a new heart and a new spirit, a new ruach. You see that? And make for yourself. In other words, he's already cleansed them once and they have turned back. And he says, now you make it, right? For why should you die, O house of Israel? For I have no pleasure in the death of one who dies, declares the Master Yahuwah. So turn back and live. So to turn back and totally repent will cause you to have a new heart. Okay? And a new spirit. Like I did yesterday in the prayer call. And it goes on to say that he takes up a lamentations or a weeping or gnashing of teeth for the house of Israel, for the leaders of Israel, the leaders of the house of Israel. And you can read that, or I may read it on another date. I feel the peace of Yahuwah that I've read far enough. And then I'll highlight here in chapter 20. Okay, so the verse 14 of 19 talks about the fire. And then chapter 20 talks about the 7th year of the 5th month and the 10th day of the month. And I will not try to describe that to you. But these are days set apart, probably for the wrath of Yahuwah, or the end of his wrath. I really thought that we walked out of the ark on the date that I gave, 7/17. And everything is different. But we are not in heaven. And we are not in Goshen. We are not in Canaan. We are not in paradise. Not yet. Unless I'm very mistaken. Because why was I chased by demons? Until I crossed over to another area. And still, I felt the heaviness until I brought you this word. God bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you and not against you. Amen.